So welcome everyone, aloha, and thank you for joining us today. Today I'm going to talk about test taking strategies for online exams. And so because of the coronavirus and all our instructions switching over, almost overnight from a face-to-face to an online class, I anticipate there may be some anxiety with students who are used to taking exams in a traditional format, right? And then all of a sudden your exams are online. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Everyone can see my slides okay? The slides that I'm sharing? Okay, good. All right. So my name is Dr. Nee Chong. I'm an assistant professor of education at the School of Education at HPU. My other role is an instructional designer. So what I do is I help faculty create their online courses. I help them choose technology to use in the classroom. And so I'm very familiar with Blackboard and the technology behind it. As you can imagine, I've been really busy since the conversion to the online environment. And so if you have any question specifically and you want to reach out to me, my email is also that hpU.edu. Okay. So I'm going to cover three things in our talk today. I'll kind of keep it simple, and then afterwards I'm going to open it up for questions. So any specific questions that you have or any concerns or anxiety about online testing, feel free to ask me. The three things I'm going to cover are preparation for online class. So before you take your exams, what are the things you need to make sure is in place? The test taking strategies itself once you start taking the exam, and then how to reduce test anxiety, the last part. Okay, so the first section is preparation for online tests. First of all, you just want to make sure that you check your computer, right? You want to make sure that there's no last minute problems. What I mean by that is sometimes, your hardware is not compatible or your software isn't compatible. You want to make sure that your browser, if you can, is one of the latest browsers that, sometimes browsers need to be updated before they'll run a certain program. So you want to make sure all those are in place. For Blackboard, if your exam is on Blackboard, the best browser that Blackboard works with are Chrome and Firefox. So for those of you who use Mac, for example, Safari is usually the default. You can use it, but I always tell students that if you can, try to use either Chrome or Firefox, just because the interface works best with either Chrome or Firefox. The other thing is you want to make sure that you are in a location with adequate internet access. So what that means is, if at all possible, try to make sure you have a stable connection because of the setting of the quiz. Is sometimes, a lot of times when students get kicked out, is because of bandwidth. It's because they somehow lose internet, someone else is sharing it and playing a video, for example, right? And then the other thing is you want to make sure like what kind of requirements that the faculty has. We recently have something called Responders Lockdown Browser. Responders Lockdown Browser is an additional thing for Blackboard that some faculty may use. So if you don't know about it, your faculty probably didn't require it, okay? If your faculty required, you would have heard about it. So Responders Lockdown Browser, what it does is it works just like a Blackboard exam, except once you start the exam, it locks down your browser and it won't let you navigate, to other pages. Also, faculty can enable the responders monitor, which means that it turns on the webcam and record the session as the student is taking the exam. Again, all of these are more on, prevention for cheating, to mimic more of like a proctored exam setting. So again, if you are, if your professor is using it, they'll probably already let you know. And then we'll talk a little bit about the requirements for that. Does anyone here know if your professor is using Responders Lockdown Browser? Show of hands if you know. Okay, good. All right. Okay, so this one here is on actually Responders Lockdown Browser. If you guys are interested, I can play the video just so you know what it looks like. Then that way, if your professor requires it, then you know what you need for your computer. If you are watching this from abroad, you require to So that's the Respondus lockdown browser, just a really quick rundown. From what I know from working with faculty, most of the faculty who are currently using it are science faculty. So if you're taking chemistry or biology or any of those classes, I know some of those faculty use them. Okay, so other guidelines before you take the exam, of course, read and understand the test guidelines. So here are some questions I always want to prep students with. What will the test be taking place at a specific date and time? Now I ask this because for face-to-face class, you know exactly when you have to take the exam. You show up, right? You take the exam and you leave. For online classes, your faculty can have a few choices. They can say, okay, the test will be open for a week, for example, and you can take it any day during the week. Or they can say you can only take it on one day, the day of your final exam, Thursday, right, from 10 to 12, for example. So you really want to make sure you double check with them what their parameters are. Is it a whole week and then there is a 2-hour limit, or is it on a specific day and time that you need to take it? So that's the first thing you need to check. How much time you have to complete the test, and then do you have to do it in one sitting? That's another test edit settings in an online test that the instructor can put in. One sitting means that once you start the test, you can't close the browser and come back again. It has to be open and done in that one sitting. Once you close out the browser, then you are exited from the exam. That's what one sitting means. So you want to make sure that, if you are not sure, then just assume that it is in one sitting. Do not close the browser. Do you need any ADA accommodations? So some students need extra time, let's say time and a half, or they need other accommodations for ADA. If so, you need to reach out to our ADA office so that you can get a letter, and then the instructor will be able to make those accommodations for you, even in an online final exam. The next question, does your instructor prohibit backtracking? Now, some exams, again, the instructor can lock it down to where you can't backtrack, meaning to say, once you look at a question, you have to decide to answer it or move forward, and you cannot go back to the previous question. That's what backtracking means. So you want to check that, because that will influence the way you answer the exams, right? If the instructor prohibit backtracking, you want to make sure you don't skip through a bunch of questions and then you're like, I can't go back and answer it. Okay. And then where will you take the test? Where will you find the test in the course? Again, Blackboard has different modules in it. Some instructor post the exam in the course content. Some create a special folder and call it tests and exams, right? Some put it in some other places. So you really want to make sure you check with the instructor. Where will the exam be located in Blackboard, so that on the day of you don't freak out trying to look for the exam itself. Okay. Okay, so that's the prep beforehand that I would say is important, some of the questions to consider. And then I believe the next video is actually a video on taking, how do you take a test in Blackboard? Okay.
Dr. Chong, we're not actually hearing any of the sound from the video.
Okay.
So can you share your computer audio?
Yes. Let's see. How do I do that? Share computer sound. Got it.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Let me try again. Sorry about that.
You can find tests in any content area, learning module, lesson plan, or folder. Your instructor lets you know when a test is available and where to find it in your course. Let's take a look. Read the test instructions carefully to find out if the test is timed, whether or not it submits automatically when the time is up, if you're allowed to save and resume later, and if you can retake it. Select Begin to start the test. Don't refresh the page, close the window, or use the browser's back button while taking the test. If you have problems during the test, contact your instructor immediately. Not all tests are timed. If the test is timed, the timer starts once you select Begin. The timer status bar keeps you updated on the time left. The system keeps track of the questions you have completed so you don't miss any, and automatically saves your answers. You can also select Save Answer next to each question, or save all answers as you work. If your instructor permits, you can select Save All Answers, exit the test without submitting, and return to finish it later. For timed tests, it is important to know that if you save your answers and exit the test without submitting, the timer continues to run. To complete the test and send it to your instructor for grading, select Save and Submit. Tests with manually graded questions such as essays are not available until your instructor grades those questions. Your instructor decides how much information appears here when your grade is available. After your instructor posts your grade, you can return to the test to view your grade and any feedback your instructor included.
Okay, so I wanted to pause for a little while here to see if anybody has any questions about Blackboard test taking for right now. If not, I can move forward and then you guys can ask questions later. Any questions about it right now? No? Okay. So that is in a nutshell how you can take an exam in Blackboard. Just locate it, find where is it. Once you start, like they say, you know, there'll be a timer if the exam is timed. And I think most final exams are timed. So you see the timer running down, right? There is a save button next to each question. So if you wanted to, you can make sure you click on the save button right after you answer it each time. That's just a good habit. And then make sure you only click submit once you're ready to submit the answer, because submit just means that it's done, right? So you want to click save rather than submit. Okay, so other task preparation strategies, including choosing a quiet, task taking spot with minimal distractions. Again, if you're staying at home and you have roommates or family, let them know you're taking an exam ahead of time. That's always helpful. And then because it's online, you want to make sure you have everything you need for the test. If let's say you are, taking a math exam, you want to make sure, you are if you can use calculators, your calculators are charged, you have it there, you have your notes, your books, or everything, just set ready to go. On the day of the test, just set your phone to silent so it's not constantly buzzing, right? And then any other devices to be set off. Other preparation strategies, well, study the class materials. You want to find out ahead of time if your exam is open book or not. Again, most online exams are open book because it's online and you can consult your materials. But again, some instructors would say that it's not. It's closed book, and that's why responders lockdown browser and the webcam monitoring is one of the options. In those cases, then you have to make sure that there's nothing on your desk and all that would, that would show up in the webcam. If your instructor has a practice exam, check with your instructor. A lot of times our instructor has practice exams before the final exam that would show you the format of taking the exam. If they do have a practice exam, even there's no credit associated with it, I would say take it, just so you get familiar with how the screen is going to look like and how much time you have and all of that. Okay. The last one is the test format. Do you know what kind of questions will be on the exam? Will it be multiple choice? Will it be, short answer? Will it be essay? If it's essay, how long does your instructor expect the answer to be, right? If it's short answer, is it 3 sentences? Is that sufficient? Or is it a paragraph, right? You want to make sure you kind of clarify this question so that when you are answering the exam, you're not thinking either answering too much for a 5-point question or answering too little for a 20-point questions, right? Okay, so this is the test taking strategy itself. I mentioned points earlier. So if you're not sure how to allocate your time during the exam, because is it a time exam, observe the point value of the questions. That's the best indicator. A lot of times students say, oh, there are 60 questions and I have 1 hour. That must mean a minute a question. But it's not always true, because if some questions, let's say out of 60 questions, if one question is weighted 50% of the points, obviously that question needs the bulk of the time. So you want to see how much points there are, and then you can figure out how much time you can allocate for that question. Keep an eye on the clock. I always tell students that it's a good strategy if you're taking online tests that you have your timer set to notify you perhaps 5 or 10 minutes before the exam ends, because the timer in Blackboard just shows the timer as it's running down. It doesn't really alert you if you're running out of time. A lot of students run out of time during the exam. Save your answers frequently, and remember, do not submit. Do not click submit until you're ready to submit. This is another thing. So once you click submit, it will let you, it will say you are done, and then exit the quiz, right, the exam. The other thing is, if you need to leave for a while to go use a bathroom, or to get yourself something to drink or whatever, don't exit the test page. Sometimes students think that they will close down the browser, go use the bathroom, come back and reopen it. I would advise against that. Leave the task open, quickly go do whatever you need to do, and then come back and continue. That's a best practice. Again, because there is no pause button in your exam, the exam timer will keep running, even though you leave and all that. So you want to make sure you keep it on and then come back. Don't close the browser, right? If you have any technical problems, I strongly suggest, like yesterday, we all know the system went down, right? So that's a very possible thing to happen, like technical stuff. So you want to make sure ahead of time, write down that phone number, 808-566-2411. That's HPU Help Desk support. I have that phone number program in my phone, right? So if you have any issues while taking the exam, or issues logging in and all that, you want to make sure you are able to call tech support. So that's the phone number. You can also send them an email, that's help@hpu.edu. And also make sure you contact your instructor. Now, if you have any error messages while you're taking the exam, it's really, really helpful when you can take a screenshot of what's happening with the error message. If you're saying, oh, I can't get in, but what is it that you see on your screen, right? Because that help the tech support narrow down what the issues are. So I would say, just take a screenshot of what is the error message, what is the problem preventing you from, taking the exam. And then email that screenshot to help desk and your instructor. Instructors can reopen exam for students if they have technical issues, so don't worry about that. They can actually make exemptions for that. Okay, so before you hit submit, again, check the accuracy of your answers, spelling, grammar, and all that. If you're running out of time, I always tell my students that if you're having an essay question and you're running out of time, it's best to provide an outline of an answer rather than start writing in full sentence and then run out of time. And you only, have let's say the opening paragraph, right? The intro paragraph, okay? So one strategy is to give an outline of the answer, the full answer that you wanted to give but didn't have time, because that way the instructor can see the thought process. And even though it's an incomplete sentence, it's just an outline, at least they can see that, oh yeah, the student gets it. It's just they ran out of time. Here's an outline of what they wanted to write, instead of, again, just a paragraph of the opening sentence. Try and organize your thought by main idea using supporting facts and then details. So another thing that I noticed with exams, when it's essay exams or short answers, that a lot of times the student only express their idea, but they are not supported. So I would say a really good answer that would get full points would be, here is my main idea, or here's what I think the answer is, and then the supporting facts and the details, any examples and all that. So that would make a really good answer. Okay. The last part is reread the question to make sure that you're answering the question the professor is asking instead of the question that you thought she's asking. Okay. Now this is very important because I've had students like answer the questions, and the answer is perfect, except it's not answering what I asked, is what they think I asked. Okay, so that part is important, that you read the question, make sure you're answering it the way they want it to be. Okay. Okay. So another thing. Okay. So how many of you have essay questions? Do you know if your questions are essay questions? If you are answering essay questions, here are some words in essay questions that you want to pay attention to. So let's say if that your instructor say analyze, right? Analyze means you have to present a complete statement of the elements of the idea, and then you should give a conclusion of your analysis. That's what analyze means. Okay. So what's the statement? Okay, look at both sides and then have a conclusion. That's analyze. if your professor said, please define, define means it's usually short. You don't need to give details. Define is just give the definition, very clear, very concise, right? If they say describe, then you want to make sure you give you characterize it. You want to give a sketch or a narrative. It's usually in a story form. When you say describe something, you give details, right? You're telling a story. If they say evaluate, you want to make sure that you're appraising it, right? You're appraising the problem itself, and then any advantages, any disadvantages. That's what evaluation means, okay? If they ask you to explain something, really they're asking you to clarify or to interpret your answer, okay? Spell it out, explain it to someone who doesn't know about the topic. Give reasons why it's so, okay? And then if they say identify, it's usually short. It's kind of like define, okay? Identify, just say, okay, that one, I identified it, right? If they say interpret, really what they mean is translate. Translate what this means, okay? Give examples to it, give comments to it. What is your own judgment? What's your interpretation about it, okay? And then the last part is, if it says is review, then you are actually examining the subject matter in place, analyzing it, and then you are commenting on it. Reviewing is it's like a book review, right? Your own comment, your own perspective about it after you give an analysis about it, okay? So when you're ready to submit, after you've checked everything, you should only click submit once, unless it didn't go through. If you click submit, you should see the screen that said you have submitted your exam. If you didn't see it, you can click it one more time, but don't click it multiple times the first time, okay? So just click it once, and then wait for a while. You should see the screen that says it's already submitted. If you don't see that, then click it again. Okay. If you have problem, if you're trying to submit your your exam and then you get an error message, definitely screenshot that, because that means that shows that you have already taken it and then you have an error message. Okay? Screenshot that again. Let help desk know. Let your instructor know. You can check your grades under My Grades after you're taking the exam. Now, by default, a lot of times faculty don't release the answers for final exams because students can be taking it at different times and they want to maintain the integrity of the exam. So depending on when your instructor decide to release the result, when they do release the result, you can check your grades under My Grades. Okay, so this last part really is just dealing with test anxiety. If you're taking, exam for the first time on an online format and you are, anxious about it, being prepared is the best antidote to that. If you, if you already studied, if you're already prepared for it, you make sure that you have everything you need, then that would really help with the anxiety part. Make sure that, if it is a time exam on a specific day, that you sleep early the night before. I know with the whole stay-at-home thing, our sleep pattern is all messed up. I know mine is, I don't sleep till like way past midnight. I wake up later, right? So you want to make sure that if your exam is timed, let's say at 9 a.m. in the morning, you set your alarm clock, you log in 15 minutes earlier just to make sure everything is there, right? And you are not rushing it. Eat something too before you start your exam. Okay. Deep breathing exercise, this always help if you are feeling really, anxious and all that. Breathe deeply, slowly, sit up straight. All of these really help. The other thing too is talking to yourself, telling yourself, like psyching yourself, tell yourself, okay, slow down, don't rush. There's plenty of time. I'm doing okay. I'll pass this, right? I have a timer set up. I have all my notes. I'm doing okay. So keep like telling yourself that. And I felt like that helped a lot when I'm, doing an exam myself. And that's all I have. So I wanted to see if you guys have any questions for me. I'm gonna stop the sharing now. So you're all like feeling pretty good about your exam, taking your exam? Okay, good. Yeah, I'm glad you guys can join me again. If you have any questions specific, to your situation that I didn't address and you wanted me to address, please feel free to. Yeah. All right. So I think this session's recorded, right, Kayla? Okay. All right. Well.